Don't do that.
What just happened?
I just shot stuff all over me. Got the seal out. Alright guys, so we're back after a week. Yeah. It's taken a week to get this done. And we're not even done yet. But that's okay. In order to do a job right, sometimes you just got to go get the right equipment, and that's what we've been going through for this last week. This Toyota truck happens to lay in one of those years where they made some changes. So you can order the parts, and they're going to be wrong. And then you can go find the right parts, and they're still going to be wrong. And then you can get the tools, and those are probably going to be wrong. And, you know, you just keep going and plugging away and going through stuff. So you'll see we got a brand new press. My old press, that was a homemade janky little Chingadairs, wasn't working right. And so we just bit the bullet, which was funny because we missed the sale and then we got the sale. So got that guy on a deal, which is really nice. Went out and picked up a tool to get the bearings and everything off of the axles, which is this guy here. This actually slips down over and it grabs a hold of the backing plate when your axle is through. And this plate here will bolt down onto those bolts on the backing plate that you took off. Your axle shaft will stick down through here, and you'll use your press with something, you know, clean and nice like this. We'll stack this on the press so we don't ruin our splines, and we'll push the axle out of that housing. The cool thing about this new press that I got from Hobo Freight is that this piece, when it's mounted, we're actually able to stick up between the bars here and just rotate sideways, and it'll hold that all that weight, so I don't have to go and stack a bunch of stuff to make it work. So it's literally dangling underneath, and we're just pushing the axle out. If that made no sense to you, it didn't to me either. That's okay. So that's one of the tools that we have. It does come with this plate as well and a bunch of bolts. When you initially are pulling the stack off of the axle, this is the plate that'll pull your reluctor wheel off for your ABS sensor, which is this guy. And it'll pull one of these rings off as well. So if we look at the way, and I apologize guys, because like I just kind of went crazy and was like, yay, I have everything, it's coming together, and I just pulled everything apart and showed you none of it. That's what we do. So I'll show you kind of a basic of how it goes. Drew has cleaned this plate up, but there, and you'll see us go back together, but there is a gasket or a seal that goes in here. So that'll get stacked into this place. This will actually sit down over the axle. And then there will be your bearing, which will go down. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? The bearing will sit down inside of there, and that presses down. It just sits inside of there, but it'll press on the axle shaft itself. There will be this ring, kind of a keeper ring. You'll notice that there is a tapered side to it. That tapered side will be pointing up. That would be sitting on top of the bearing. Again, all pressed down into that. Then you'll press it down far enough that you'll be able to get the snap ring on. Those are always fun. Once all of that's together, you will then press on your reluctor wheel. The open side will face down like that. And you will press on that keeper. All of that stack goes on. Your internal seal on the axle housing gets changed, and we stab it all back together. So I will show you how all that goes, but that's how it came apart. It was fun. That one piece, which is this guy that bolts to the new tool, will actually slip underneath this when it's all on there. You'll use that, again, pushing on the axle shaft with the press. That'll pop all this out. Get ready. There'll be some tension, and it'll go pop, and you'll think you broke everything. You probably didn't. You might have. I don't know. But it will pop free, and then it'll start pressing out. So you'll lift that off. You'll get rid of this plate. Then you go to the backing plate with that tool, and you push on the shaft again, and it all comes apart. Hopefully. That's the theory, and I'm sticking to it. So that's everything we did the other day. That's the stack. The only thing we're going to be reusing is the reluctor wheel. And you might have a different name for it. I don't know, but it kind of does reluctor things. And it's reluctant to go on and come off. So, yeah. We're going to replace that in the bearing. I did notice that somebody has been in here before. We noticed that on both sides because nothing was factory. One of the ways you can get that off when you have that ring on there is to cut it. Please don't cut that deep. That's a problem that we don't really need to have. This axle shaft has actually gotten hot before as well, but everything looks good enough for government work, so we're going to put it together anyways. It's not for a customer, it's for Drew. And, well, Drew's here all the time, so if it breaks again, we'll pull it apart and fix it. We're professionals and have all the tools now. I'm telling you. So, I think that's got you up to date. Am I missing anything there, Drew?
Nope.
Okay. I think that we're fully up to date on that now, so we'll set you guys up. We'll show you this going together, and probably have Riley help out a little bit, because he's here with us. You guys saw him on the video with the 1963 Chevy 2 Nova. That is a couple of videos back, and if you didn't see him on there, shame on you! Go watch that video. And while you're at it, please make sure you're subscribed. So that does something somewhere. I don't know, but it's just a click of a button, so do it. I got one side all reassembled, all back together. Drew's got parts cleaned. I was gonna do this last night. Drew's like, well, but you need to show the peeps. I'm like, dang it! So we're here. And I thank you for those of you guys that have been commenting, letting my wife know that I need a shop. Because if I had a shop, we could have done this last night, because we would have had enough light and the vehicle in to get it done. But I don't know. She's my wife. I don't even know if she's listening, but it helps. So there's that. Okay, enough talking. Let's get to work. Oh, by the way, I think we'll link this tool down in the description. We can do that, right, Drew?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay, so he knows how to do that, not me. He's the bleep bloop guy. One of the things I did find with this tool, and one of the things we're finding out in research on the Toyotas, is that there is slightly different axles from ABS to non-ABS. There's obviously different types of bearings, all these different things, and there's slight changes in all these. This is a tool that was here to help put the new bearing and everything on. We were using it yesterday. I ended up having to use part of the tool to press this back off. It is just slightly too small of a diameter inside, and you'll see it's supposed to go all the way down, and it doesn't. So we were actually pressing the tool on yesterday, and it wouldn't allow me to even get that down far enough to get below the snap ring line. So we had to press this tool off, and I don't want to do that again. So show you guys what I did. So I found a piece of pipe. The problem with this pipe is that it's got, you can see that little seam right there. Other than that, this pipe would have worked perfect. So I just took a Dremel and Dremeled out the seam so we can hollow it out. Now this pipe will actually slide all the way down. So I'll be able to utilize that tool and still use the tool that they gave me, and we'll be able to press everything together. So you'll see me using that. The only difference on that tool that we'll link is that I had to create this. Your axle might be okay depending on if you have four-wheel ABS, if it's got factory locker, all these different options. It seems like they changed things slightly, but be prepared to get farm boy about it, right? Because we did yesterday. We're gonna grab some of these seals, wherever they went, they're right here. I need my tub of grease because, you know, why not? I'm just going to use some standard, whatever this is, high temp wheel bearing disc brake. I don't know. Grease. Doesn't matter. First one that we have for this 2000 Toyota Tacoma is going to be this 1956 dyslexia. It's kicking in. So we're going to grab this seal. This is your external seal. That will go directly into there. You have to put it on before you put all this together. because the axle shaft goes through that, okay? It's not something you're gonna put on later. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of grease on my finger here. I'm gonna put it around this edge just to help me slip it in. And there's a little chunk right there that I don't want in there. Like a little rock or something. This grease has been with me for a long time. And we're literally just gonna slide it in there. It just fits. Should just press in by hand. You don't need a special tool for that. Just be careful of the inner ridge. You know, don't damage that when you're pushing this in. Yes, it's a little weird because it's got this extra gasket material. But I'm just gonna push that in. That'll bottom out right along that ridge and we're good there. Okay, on the other side, we'll have the bearing that goes in here and the axle shaft that'll go through and everything will be happy and copacetic. Okay, following me so far? No? All right. I understand. I'm not following me either, but eventually I will. Okay. Oh, I forgot one thing. Dang it. Grease. Take a little bit of grease and just put it on the edge of your seal. Just so it's got that little bit of lubrication so we're not just putting a dry seal on. We just want to get that edge just nice and greased up. You don't need to glob it on. Just give something to be able to slide over when it hits that spot. And yes, we already inspected all that. It's all good. Okay, bearings. This bearing is designed, it can go in pretty much either way. It's got the same curves, it's got the same anything, it's got the same everything. So sometimes when I do these, I'll try to look at where a part number is, and if one side has a part number and the other one does not, I'll try to lay the part number where we're gonna be able to see it the next time it comes apart, or the next guy can see it when they take it apart, or gal. I don't judge. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease down here on this shaft. That's just gonna help kind of, you know, let things slide. Again, this bearing presses on the inside on the shaft, not on this outside edge, but we still want everything just to kind of slip together nice. So why not put a little bit of lube? You don't have to do the whole thing. Just get enough, that front edge. It'll slide in there sometimes. That guy goes on, and then this guy goes on. Taper up. Got it? If you want to, that's another way you can do it. If you have a long piece of pipe like this, you can literally like pull drive it, but with a longer piece. I could take, if I wanted to, there's another way. I could take this tool if I've got it. I could use this, then come down and hit that, you know. You can see it's already driving it down on there a little bit. So that's one way you can do it. We have a press, so we're gonna do it that way. Is that okay with you? Cool. All right, I'm gonna get this all set up. I'll bring you back and show you the setup. All right, so you can see the way I stacked this. I got my 2 plates. We got the notch set. I've got my tool here that it came with that is too small diameter on the inside for the main part of the press. I got my piece of pipe that we set, my 2 pieces in here. And we're gonna press on the top of this. You can use this guy here, and we're gonna go ahead and press on that. So Riley, if you wanna make sure this is closed, we're just gonna pump this down, put some pressure on this axle. 5 hours later. So we'll see now that this axle is gonna start shifting, everything's stacking. Keep going. Got my bars here set. And we're just gonna lock this thing until you can see the gap in here. Oh, you can hear it sliding through. And we're gonna lock this thing until it's got some tension to it. So now, this tool we were having a problem with before because it was pressing onto the shaft, and we're not doing that anymore because we made that pipe. Fancy that. I know I could have done a better cut and all that stuff. It was late. I was tired. Leave me alone. Okay? So what we're going to look at is, are we below the snap ring line? I can take a snap ring, I can set it in that notch, and we're definitely below that line. So I'm going to put this snap ring in, and then we'll go ahead and install the next part. I'll show you guys how that's done. All right, it's seated all the way around. We're pretty good on that. Okay. Reluctor wheel, other thingies, whatever. That's where the seal will rest on the new one. So again, reluctor wheel facing down, our snap ring is on. We're gonna put that down. But what I'm gonna do is actually put a little bit of grease on it first. This one I'm just gonna put on the inside of this. We're gonna lube the inside of that edge just to kind of give it something to slide on, so it's not just, you know, all sorts of tension. We'll do the same thing here. Just put a little bit on this. Taper up.
Don't look over here. Don't look over here. Nothing happened. Drop count.
Drop count 12. Okay. We're going to use, actually this time I'm not going to use the pipe, although we will end up pressing this tool onto the axle slightly, but I'll show you why I'm not going to use the pipe. This tool comes with a notch. And so when we go to press this setup together, we're going to go in, they say 3 millimeters. I went a little bit more than that. I went about 5. And you go, how do I measure that? I don't know how to measure that. Well, there's a simple way. Is you grab yourself an Allen. This is a 3 millimeter Allen, or a 1/8, which is close enough to the same, and you're just going to go the width of that Allen wrench up. Now, I went a little bit further on mine. The other thing that I did also check is when I installed the axle, I pulled the speed sensor out, the ABS sensor, I pulled that out, and I did verify that the reluctor wheel is indeed sitting directly over the sensor. So we're good, okay? Stop yelling at me. We can make it right. So I'm actually gonna go closer to about 5 to 6 millimeters depth, but we'll try to show you that as best we can before we release everything. So that's just gonna go over that. And stick this back into the press. Make sure you smash your fingers. That's always fun. This Harbor Freight press is really nice. It comes with those notches that are almost perfect for this. And then Riley, you're gonna close that again and start pressing. I have it on my side so I can watch it, but I've got my notch right here. So we're gonna just keep an eye on that as we're going down. So again, we've got it supported down here with the tool. We're gonna be pressing this collar on by pushing on the axle itself, right up on the hub of the axle. I'm centering everything, that's why I'm holding the tool here. And here we go. We're gonna start seeing this move. See, we're shifting down. Now what we're looking for is like this chrome space. We're gonna be looking for that to pop through here. Stop right there. Give me that Allen, wherever it ended up. You're standing on it. So I'm just gonna take this Allen and I'm gonna measure this space, and it's obviously more than that 3 mil, but like I told you guys before, like I'm gonna go more than 3 mil. So I can literally stab it straight on there, and I wanna go like maybe just give me a little bit more. Right there. That's about where I have the other one. The inkling is to press this reluctor all the way against that other ring and the snap ring, but that's not the way it needs to be. It needs to have that spacing so that this can be read on the ABS sensor. And there's our gap for the measurement. Let's go ahead and release that. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Because, again, like I told you, that tool is not the right diameter, so it actually got pressed on there a little bit. But this time we're not really worried about it because, well, it's not hard on there, it's not far. So you should be able to just give it a couple taps, it'll walk it off. And there you have your axle completely reset and ready to go. Crotch shot. Perfect. One of the things we did do is we pulled the wheel cylinder out. So we're gonna put that back in while we're here. We just want to get that out of the way for when we were cleaning. We didn't want to fill it with water. It's not necessary for the job, but it is if it's making a mess. Hand me the gun. 2 10mm bolts is all that holds that in. So we're gonna just put that guy back in and torque it to that. Whatever that is, that's what we're torquing it to.
Looks like Mickey Mouse.
It does look like Mickey Mouse. All right, next we're gonna go out and we're gonna put the seal in the axle on the truck. I think we still need to take the old seal out, as a matter of fact. And then we'll put that seal in the axle and listen to Riley burp a few times, and then we'll put the axle back in. We'll show you guys that. We're gonna spend a little time cleaning up because that's what you should do. You know, you've got all this mud and goo and gross stuff that's been piled up for years between grease and dirt and farms and cow turds and all that stuff. So just get it cleaned up, man. You're in there. All right. That's with that cleaned off. We're gonna waste a can of brake cleaner. I mean, are you really doing it right if you're not spraying it in your eyes? I know it shouldn't go in the electricals, but it is. Hi. 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 All right, while you guys are gone getting me the O-ring, which I'm gonna have to go get another one, I was cleaning out where the ABS sensor goes because I found it is just full of stuff. It's dirty. I'm glad I pulled it. So I got that sitting up here because it's magnetic, so why not? Why not just utilize that part of it? But I think some of our grease and juice and oil back here was coming from that sensor. So getting all this cleaned out, making sure there's no dirt, stuff like that stuck back in this axle tube so we can go all back together. But encountered another little problem. This thing was just filthy caked, so I was cleaning it and the O-ring broke off. There's an O-ring that goes in that little notch right there. Inspect that. I'm gonna go, I've got an O-ring kit, so I'm gonna go slap an O-ring in here. It's nothing special. Just gotta hold back some oil and then we'll go back in there. But obviously that's just gonna leak, right? So we're gonna get an O-ring for that, find it, and then we'll show you how I put the seal in and utilizing the tools that I have. Because not all of us have a fancy dancy tool seal driver thingy majigger. I don't. I never have. I've always done it my way. And then we'll snap all this back together, which will hopefully go pretty quick. By the way, the O-ring that Drew got me, it's going to sit around that, but I do want to put some grease on it first, just to make it happy, so that everything goes together nice. So we'll be back once I find this O-ring. Found an O-ring that fits. It actually fits really quite nice. So I'm going to prep my sensor to go in, but I'm not going to put the sensor back in yet, and I'll show you why. Yes, you don't need to take it out. It's not necessary, but you know what? It's another thing while you're in there that you can check. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep this with a little bit of grease. Get everything lubed up. It's all fresh rubber. Makes things slide better. You know how these things work. Lubricity. We're gonna put that O-ring there. This guy is our new gasket. And we had to go and find and make sure 100 times that that was right. But it is. We had double, triple, quadruple checked because again, you're gonna find, especially as you work on one of these types of projects, that there is seemingly thousands of different ideas and topics and parts that could fit this, and everybody seems to think they know, and none of them really do. And they're gonna tuck that down in there, and it's gonna we're gonna press it in just a little bit, just so it stays just enough. Then what I do is I found a socket that I have that fits in there and is just slightly smaller than the seal, but it pushes on the outer rim. You don't want to damage this inside. You don't want to deform the seal. And one of the things I like about using a socket too is it hits like multiple points. I don't know why. It just makes me feel good. I'm looking in here right now, I can see that my seal is sitting a little bit deeper on this side than it is on this side. So when I start tapping, I'm gonna tap that side in, and I'm gonna kind of walk the seal in. until it bottoms out. And then we'll see when the socket's straight. That's the other thing I like about socket. It kind of shows me where I need to tap, right? So if I can get in the center, you hear the tone changes. Doesn't take a ton of pressure, but we're just listening for the tone change to see where that is completely seated. Then we're going to double check that everything looks even in there, everything looks straight, and we're just going to double check that. Looks like this side needs to come in a little bit more, and sure enough it does. You can hear that tone change when something bottoms out. It just becomes that solid sound. We're gonna do a little checking on this thing. That's the other part, nice thing about the grease is that it'll kind of show you where there's high and low sides too. I feel pretty good about that actually there, bud. We're just gonna give it a little triple checker. A little harder tap and you can hear that it just sounds solid. If you want to. A little bit of grease on the splines. Depends on if you drained everything or not. None of this bearing grease is gonna hurt anything in there, guys. It's just gonna help. This will just help kind of lubricate everything as you're putting it together, and it makes a mess on your fingers. So why not? So the reason I'm leaving the speed sensor out is because I want to verify that my reluctor wheel is set right before we kind of put everything together and guess. So I'm going to set this axle shaft in, careful not to drag it on the actual seal, and line everything up. Make sure your wheel cylinder, your brake cylinder is at top. Line up your bolt holes. Oh, come on. And drop it in. Now your backing plate will go all the way in. It'll feel sometimes like there's a bit of a gap. That's because your backing plate has some shift on it until you put all this together. I'm going to look down in this hole here for the speed sensor. Can you see that, or do I need to go get a flashlight? You see it? And if you look, that reluctor wheel is right there where our sensor, I keep calling it speed sensor, our ABS sensor can find it, it can see it, it'll be happy, right? So we're just going to bolt the backing plate back on. There's the four nuts that go back here. Those are a 14 millimeter. So we're going to get our 14 metric meter wrench. You can use an impact. If you can jam it in there, go for it. I don't care. Just be careful. Don't break these things off now. But we're just going to, you know, ratchet it back down, right? Let me get these tightened up. We'll bring you guys back. Hey! Alright, now I'm going to put the, I guess, ABS sensor. I'll see if we can walk this guy in there real quick without breaking anything. This is just our little electronical plug, and we'll try and get some of that cleaned out a little bit real quick. We'll get that guy plugged in here. Click! Actually, you know what? Well, let's see if we can get this with that in my way. Brake line's got to go back on. Careful now. Careful now. Make sure you don't cross-thread that guy. It's tempting, you know. All we're going to do, guys, is just thread it on. It goes on the back, goes right back into your wheel cylinder. You don't need to see that. We'll get the assembly of the brakes here in a second. But we're going to try and clean some of this real quick. All right, go away. All right, guys, so we got the brake line reinstalled on the back here. One of the things to be careful of is don't just throw a wrench on there. So if it's not spinning free, clean it, get it spinning free. And be careful putting that brake line in. We've talked about it before, but if you haven't seen one of my previous videos, these are really easy to cross thread. So don't do that, okay? So we went ahead and put that in. Now we got to put the parking brake, or what some people call the emergency brake in, whatever you want to call it. We threw that up over here. This guy we're going to bring through. We got to connect it down here on this hook. And then before you bolt everything in, which is a mistake I've made 100 times, go ahead and get that all connected right there, all right? So we'll get that guy connected. And then we're going to throw the little horseshoe over the top of that and just get the emergency brake, parking brake, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me what you call it. What matters to me is that it's in here. That's all that should matter to anybody. So we'll throw a wrench on there just to make sure that we're happy with it and call her good. It's not my truck anyways, it's Drew's. So if he wrecks, it's his fault. It's his problem. Don't forget your little spring, little return spring guy. It's gonna go through that little hole in the side of the bracket, and then we're gonna have to pull that spring in. Let's see if the old semi-truck trick works. Get yourself a pair of vice grips, clamp down on that spring pretty tight. It's not a real high tension spring, but you just gotta make sure you're out of the way with whatever you're gripping. We'll see if that flies off of there or not. Now your parking brake, emergency brake is pretty much back together. You know, there's still one more piece to go on there, but that can go on there. We'll get that done. All right, brake shoe assembly time. We're gonna bring our brake shoe assembly back on. We'll get that guy all spread around here. Get those up into their notches. Make sure they're happy when we go and set everything. So a couple things we'll need to do is you've got your cable that's got to go back on. That guy's just going to go right behind this bracket on here. Just goes right behind the bracket. Just simple like that, you know, just right there. See, simple. Told you guys. And he hooks right onto that guy. Got our little side keepers. We're gonna put one on. Pin goes in the back. I'm gonna put this side on. So I'm gonna set the brake up in the notch on the right here on the chingadaires there. And we're just gonna come through the hole in the back here, stab it on through, and she's right there. Oh, you know what? One of the things I forgot to do, Drew. It's supposed to remind me of this stuff. You know? Where'd my grease bucket go? One of the old things that I was always taught is to grease all these little rub points. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's necessary. Washer goes on the back. It's got the little step for the spring to sit into. Okay, maybe. There we go. Washer goes on the back. Spring goes on. I always orient mine flat because then that kind of tells me where I need to grab the next piece. Or just let it throw on the ground. That's fine too. That always works. So by orienting that tab flat, it tells me that when I put it in my pliers to have that flat so I can line it up better. So we'll get that orientation back. Or you can, some guys just like to look at the orientation and that's the way they set it in their pliers. Doesn't matter, whatever works for you. Orientation, put this guy over it, and just simply push down, twist 90 degrees, and she's locked in. Simple as that. We'll do that on the other side. I'm gonna get this guy in while we have space to do that. There we go. All right, now we're held into place. So there's a couple different ways you can do this next step. If you want, you could throw your shoe up. You can put the spring on and then slide everything behind. Now recognize that this spring is going to go behind the tab that's there. So you want your spring oriented for it to swoop to the back. If you put it on the front, it's going to get all bound up in there. It's going to bend sideways. But if you put it towards the back, it sits on the back side of the brake shoe. So we're going to put it in reverse ways. We're going to make sure we're in our notch up here. And we're gonna bring this guy back behind that bracket. The other way you could do it is set both these shoes behind the bracket and then slide that spring behind it. However you want to do it. And yes, they do make a tool for this. It's called pliers. You don't need all the special tools, guys. You really don't. You can get away with just a handful of tools. Does it make the job a little bit more difficult? Probably. But what fun is a job if it's not difficult? You know? There we go. We're locked in. Now all we gotta do is set this lower spring, which we can do with a pair of vice grips again if we want to. Now our spring is hooked and everything's back together. Now if you want to make your drums go on a little bit easier, you can pop this guy out just a little bit, this little keeper, and you can adjust your springs down. So you can actually pop this guy out to unlock and just turn this little wheel, close the gap on the shoes a little bit. Is that the right way? I can't even tell right now. But that'll help the drums slide on a little bit better. So I'm gonna get this adjusted. We'll throw the drums on, but here's the point. Here's the whole point. I think we showed this to you in the beginning, didn't we? How loose the axles were. If we didn't, this is what it should look like. When I'm pulling on this, it's wiggling the truck. There's zero play. There's gonna be some play this way, but in and out, man, we had a lot of play earlier. There is none. So I'm gonna get this adjusted. You guys know how to, if you took a drum off, you know how to put it on. So I'm gonna adjust this stuff real quick. We're gonna make sure that everything's looking really good. And we're gonna throw the drums back on here. We'll go through, we'll bleed the system because we did open up the brake system, even though we clamped it down. We're still gonna have a little bit of air. We wanna make sure we get all that out. So we'll not fully top off the reservoir for the master cylinder, but we'll put a little bit of extra fluid in there because we're gonna drain some out. We'll open up the bleeders. We've shown you how to do that before. We'll bleed it out real quick. The other thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna drain all the differential fluid on this and go ahead and top that back off with fresh fluid. Just simply pull the drain plug on the bottom, let it all leak out, and then put the drain plug back in, open the fill plug on the back, fill it up until it just kind of splooges out a little bit, cap her off, and you're good to go. So hopefully, fingers crossed, all those seals work. Everything is happy and fantastic in here, and you know, we got no up and down play, no in and out, so I'm happy. And that, my friends, is how you do rear axle seals, inner and outer, plus bearings and reluctor wheel on a 2000 Toyota Taco. This does cross over to a lot of years. The process is the same. Some of the parts are slightly different, but the process is still the same. And if you're going to do a couple of these, that tool is handy, dandy, dandy. We'll link it down below. So that way, if you want to pick up one of your own, you can. I think I paid $70 for that tool. It was cheap, and it's worth having because you can use it on other vehicles too when the situation arises. So with that, I think we got everything covered. You guys got it from here. Appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. You guys are doing an amazing job in support, and I really, really thoroughly, Drew and I both really appreciate that very, very much. So continued support, guys. Love y'all, and yeah, we'll catch you on the new next one, on the new one, on the new. We'll catch you on the next one. Appreciate you guys. Latest.
Organization for ADHD people, so his mind isn't going everywhere. Where should I place this? It's not any of these, but it's longer than this